Explorer X here. Let's head to India and hear a few stories.
Today we are going to have a few stories about Bhoot Chaturdashi. One story begins in a small village in India. There lived an old man and his 5 sons. The old man was very devoted to his sons and wanted them to have a good life. One day, he decided to go out to the nearby forest to look for some herbs and medicinal plants. As he was walking through the dense forest, he heard strange noises. He was scared, but he kept walking. Suddenly, he stumbled upon an old temple. He saw an old statue of a 4-armed man called Bhoot Chaturdashi. He had never seen such a statue before and was fascinated by it. The old man asked the local villagers about the statue, and they told him that it was believed to be the guardian of the forest. They said that it had been there since ancient times and that it was said to protect the forest from any kind of evil. The old man was curious about the statue and decided to take it home. He thought that if he kept it in his house, it would protect his sons from any kind of danger. He carefully took it home and placed it in the corner of his house. The old man and his sons started worshipping the statue, and soon, they noticed that all the bad things that were happening in their village stopped. They realized that it was because of the statue and started worshipping it even more. The old man and his sons were happy and content. They no longer had to worry about any kind of danger. But one day, tragedy struck. One of the sons got bitten by a snake and died. The old man was heartbroken and he blamed the statue for his son's death. He was so angry that he took the statue and threw it into the river. But as he was doing so, he heard a voice from the statue that said, "If you ever need me, just call my name and I will come to you." The old man was surprised, but he thought it was just his imagination. He went home and forgot about the incident. Years passed and the old man and his remaining sons had a happy and prosperous life. One day, the old man was looking through his son's old belongings and he stumbled upon a strange object. It was the same old statue of Bhoot Chaturdashi. The old man was shocked and he realized that the voice he had heard years ago was real. He decided to call out the name of the statue, and just then, the statue came to life. It thanked the old man for taking care of it and promised to protect the family from any kind of danger. The old man and his sons were relieved and grateful for the statue's protection. They thanked it for its devotion and started worshipping it even more. From then on, the old man and his sons lived a peaceful and trouble-free life. They thanked the statue of Bhoot Chaturdashi for its protection, and eventually, the statue became an important part of their lives. The old man and his sons never forgot the power of Bhoot Chaturdashi, and even after their death, the statue continued to protect their descendants. The story of Bhoot Chaturdashi remains an important part of the culture and tradition of the village even to this day. Another story of Bhoot Chaturdashi is the festival that is celebrated in parts of Bangladesh and India. It is observed on the 14th day of the dark half of the month of Ashwin, according to the Hindu calendar. On this day, people traditionally light lamps and perform rituals to honor the memory of their ancestors and to ward off evil spirits. One story about Bhoot Chaturdashi tells of a man named Ravi who lived in a small village in rural Bangladesh. Ravi was a devout Hindu, and he took great pride in observing all of the festivals and rituals of his faith. Every year, on the day of Bhoot Chaturdashi, Ravi would wake up before dawn and bathe in the river. He would then make his way to the temple, where he would offer prayers and make offerings to the gods. Despite his devotion, Ravi was not a wealthy man, and he struggled to make ends meet. He lived in a small hut on the edge of the village, and he worked hard every day to provide for his family. Despite his struggles, Ravi remained optimistic and always tried to see the good in people. One year, on the day of Bhoot Chaturdashi, Ravi was walking through the village when he saw a group of children playing. They were running and laughing, and Ravi couldn't help but smile at their joy. As he watched them, he noticed that one of the children seemed to be in distress.
Sorry to interrupt the story, it's your friend Explorer X again. If you're enjoying this, it would mean a lot to me if you could take a moment to subscribe. I promise it will help me create more stories, and that way you'll be alerted to new content and other creations I'm working on. Now, back to the show.
The child was crying and appeared to be lost. Ravi approached the child and asked if he could help. The child told Ravi that he was looking for his mother, but he didn't know where she had gone. Ravi felt a surge of compassion for the child and offered to help him find his mother. He asked the child his name and where he lived, and then set off with him through the village. As they walked, Ravi noticed that the sun was beginning to set and that the shadows were getting longer. He knew that they needed to find the child's mother soon, or they might not be able to make it back home before nightfall. Just as Ravi was starting to get worried, they heard a faint cry in the distance. Ravi listened carefully and realized that the cry was coming from a woman. He followed the sound until he saw a woman standing in a field, waving her arms and calling for help. Ravi recognized her as the child's mother and rushed over to her. The woman told Ravi that she had been out in the fields gathering firewood when she stumbled upon a strange object. It was a small, glowing stone that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. The woman had been unable to resist the temptation to take the stone, and as soon as she touched it, she felt herself being pulled into a strange, dark realm. Ravi listened to the woman's story with growing concern. He knew that the stone was likely a bhoot, or an evil spirit, and that it had probably lured the woman into the dark realm in order to consume her soul. Ravi knew that he had to act quickly if he wanted to save the woman and the child. Without hesitation, Ravi reached into his pocket and pulled out a small clay lamp. He lit the lamp and held it out in front of him, using its light to guide him through the darkness. As he walked, he recited the ancient prayers that he had learned as a child, calling on the gods to protect him from the bhoot. As he approached the stone, Ravi could feel the evil spirit trying to pull him closer. He could hear its whispers in his ear. Ravi could feel the evil spirit trying to pull him closer, and he could hear its whispers in his ear, tempting him to give in to its power. But Ravi remained resolute and continued to recite the prayers, drawing strength from his faith. As he reached out to touch the stone, Ravi felt a surge of energy flow through him. He knew that he had to act quickly before the bhoot could claim him as well. With all of his strength, Ravi grabbed the stone and lifted it high above his head. He then turned and began to walk back the way he had come, using the light of the lamp to guide him. As he walked, Ravi could feel the bhoot struggling to escape, but he was determined to keep it contained. He knew that he had to get the stone back to the village and find a way to destroy it before it could do any more harm. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Ravi emerged from the darkness and saw the lights of the village in the distance. He made his way back to the temple, where he placed the stone on the altar and called on the gods to purify it of its evil. As he watched the stone being consumed by the flames, Ravi knew that he had done all that he could to protect his village from the bhoot. He bowed his head in gratitude, knowing that it was only through the strength of his faith that he had been able to overcome the evil spirit and save the woman and the child. And another story, it was Bhoot Chaturdashi and the night was pitch black. The air was still and airy as the entire village was in complete darkness. Everyone had shut their doors and windows and were cautiously peering out from behind their curtains. The stars in the sky seemed to vanish, leaving the darkness even more oppressive. As the clock struck midnight, a chill ran down everyone's spines. All of a sudden, a strange and sinister laughter filled the air. Everyone was frozen in fear, unable to move or even utter a single sound. The laughter got louder and louder as the night went on. Then, out of the darkness emerged a ghostly figure. It slowly floated towards the village and all of a sudden, the laughter stopped. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines as the figure came closer and closer. The villagers huddled in fear, not daring to move or make any noise. Suddenly, the figure started speaking in a hollow and raspy voice, "Tonight is the night of the dead. All those who have ever wronged their ancestors or relatives who have passed away, beware. For tonight is the night of their vengeance." The figure then disappeared into the night, leaving the villagers in a state of terror and confusion. Nobody knew what to do or what to expect. All they could do was wait and see if the figure's words would come true. The night passed without any incident, and the villagers were relieved. But even today, no one dares to venture out on Bhoot Chaturdashi. For the fear of what might happen is still very real. And finally, on Bhoot Chaturdashi, a night of terror and dread, I was one of the brave few who ventured out into the darkness. I had heard tales of what went on during this night, of ghosts and ghouls who roam the streets in search of unsuspecting victims, but I chose to ignore them and go out anyway. My journey began at dusk, as I ventured out with a group of friends. We walked through the dark and silent streets, feeling an eerie presence that seemed to be watching us from all around. We could not see anything, but we could feel it, a chill running down our spine and the sensation of being followed. We eventually made it to a nearby graveyard, where we heard strange noises coming from the graves. We were cautiously quiet, not daring to make a sound. Suddenly, a figure materialized in front of us and we froze in fear. It was a tall, gaunt figure, cloaked in a hood and robe. Its eyes glowed a deep red and it seemed to be staring right into our souls. We were too scared to move, and it seemed like an eternity until the figure finally disappeared. We quickly ran away and did not stop until we were back in the safety of our own homes. I still remember the feeling of terror I felt that night, and I have not ventured out on Bhoot Chaturdashi since.
Well, I won't be going out on Bhoot Chaturdashi after hearing these stories. Don't forget to subscribe, much more is coming your way. Sweet dreams.